Do you find it challenging to recall information? We all have moments of brain fog or feeling forgetful, but what if you could boost your memory by following a simple method? The method of loci may sound like a term that comes straight from a Star Wars movie, but in fact it's actually a powerful practice used to boost memory. Also known as the memory palace, the method of loci is a technique used to trigger memory by the association of a specific place. This incredible technique involves creating your own unique memory landscape known as a memory palace. Your memory palace is specific to you and makes it easier for you to retain key information for whatever you want to recall. Sounds too good to be true? Let's take a closer look at this incredibly beneficial method for boosting memory power and reveal how you can boost your memory power by tenfold. First, make sure to give us a like, ring the bell for future notifications, and don't forget to subscribe to Brain Health Smarts to discover new and helpful ways to reduce your risk of heart disease. Plus, stick around to learn how you can get a free gift. Now back to today's video. You may know of someone who has an impressive ability to recall information, and although it seems like these people are unusually gifted, this may not be the case. In fact, it may be that these individuals simply organize their thoughts and memories in more creative and unusual ways. The brain is like a muscle, and it really is true that if we don't use it, we'll lose it. Training our brain and actively learning and expressing creativity aids in creating new neural pathways that promote increased memory. This means that although we are all genetically different, having a good memory isn't necessarily something we are born with, and it's definitely something that can be improved. And to do this, we can implement memory-boosting techniques like the one we're going to talk about in today's video. The method of loci was founded over 2,000 years ago by ancient Greeks and Romans and was initially utilized as a way of memorizing speeches. In fact, authoritative figures were only deemed as successful and perceived as competent if they could deliver a speech without referring to their notes. The method of loci is simply the method of using visualizations to enhance memory and recall information. This method has proven to be one of the most successful methods to improve memory and enhance recall in a short period of time. So, how does it work? The word loci is plural for locus, meaning location. The method of loci involves visualizing a location or environment you are familiar with. When we are learning something new, it requires less effort when we associate it with something that we are already familiar with, like a physical space. This is also known as elaborative encoding, which basically means connecting new information to pre-existing knowledge or events. Recalling information is difficult. However, most of us are actually better at using our spatial memory to recall places and different environments. By using the method of loci and giving our memories a sense of structure, we provide ourselves with the missing context, and it triggers a stronger memory. According to the legend, the method of loci was first used by a Greek poet, Simonides of Ceos. This famous poet merely escaped the devastating destruction of a building that was hosting a banquet one night. He left coincidentally right before the building caved in, killing everyone inside. The destruction was so great that family members and friends were unable to identify the deceased guests. This was when Simonides realized that picturing the spatial layout of the banquet hall allowed him to recall the names of the guests seated in each place. From this unfortunate experience, Simonides went on to establish that memory and recall become easier when we associate information with a physical location we are familiar with. From a very young age, we start to build memories of our surroundings and start to collect information about the places and people that are familiar to us. We are able to recollect familiar spaces and form a relationship with the objects in association with them. Our ability to take in information and collect memories of our external environment is fast forming from a young age, and these memories tend to stick with us for a long time. The method of loci utilizes our innate capacity for remembering physical spaces and external environments, and in turn, boosts our ability to remember important information. Before we fill you in on how to practice this memory boosting practice, don't forget to claim a copy of your free gift, the 15 Worst and Best Foods for Your Brain. Discover which everyday foods can harm your brain and raise your risk of mental disorders, and which ones can enhance mental focus, boost mood, ease depression, and much more. Now back to today's video. So how can we practice the loci method to boost memory? First, pick your memory palace or a location that you are greatly familiar with. This may be your bedroom, a childhood home, or a place of work. Now take a moment to focus on the details of your surroundings and visualize what it feels like to be in that environment. Let's imagine that you are using your home as your memory palace and that you want to remember your grocery list. We're going to be taking a memory journey through your house and visualizing each item being placed in various locations. First up on your grocery list is apples. Imagine yourself placing a bag of apples on your doormat. You may like to exaggerate the items to make it easier for you to recall them. For example, maybe the apples are extra large, or you could imagine that they have animated faces. If you think about it, the more absurd or unusual the visualization is, the more likely you are to remember it. In fact, memory specialists recommend placing objects and information in seemingly absurd places when using the loci method. Similarly, the more detail-oriented you are with the location, the more likely you are to remember the associated object. Now let's recap and run through the method in 5 easy steps to make it easier for you to put this technique into practice. Step 1. Pick your memory palace and define your route. Once you've chosen a memory palace, you can now decide how you would like to move through it. This is particularly helpful if you need to remember things in a specific order. In creating your memory palace, you'll want to make sure you're visualizing your route or memory journey in an orderly way around your chosen space. This means that you will be placing objects and identifying locations that move in one direction, clockwise or anti-clockwise, around any room or space. The direction that you decide to walk in as you move through your memory journey should be the same direction within each room or mental palace. Step 2. Identify different locations in your route that you will use as memory pegs. The more information you need to remember, the more locations you will need to identify as part of your memory journey. Different locations may be your bedside table, a lamp, a desk, a specific book. These locations are also known as memory pegs, which are objects or specific landmarks you will use to hook the information you want to remember onto. In the previous example, we use the doormat as our memory peg to place the apples on. Be observant about the locations you plan to use, and make sure each location is distinct in order to make it easier for you to differentiate information along your path. Step 3. Place information in each location or on each memory peg. Once you are familiar with your route and each location, you're ready to place information on each memory peg. Place a manageable amount of information in one place and ensure that information is placed in the correct order along your chosen route, if that applies to the information you want to remember. For example, you may not need to remember your grocery list in order from top to bottom, although this would probably make it easier for you to recall in an orderly way. Practice walking through your mental palace often, visualizing each location and memory peg in detail. Mentally visualizing your memory palace often will help you solidify this information and improve your ability to recall. Remember, be as creative and as detail-oriented as possible when visualizing different locations and objects. Sound easy enough? Implementing this incredible technique will not only boost your memory, but it will also support other mechanisms of cognitive function and improve your ability to integrate information in general. The method of loci has been well researched as a successful tool in retaining information, and it's been shown to help students retain new concepts and develop new skills. One study assessed 2 groups of students in their ability to retain information. One group attended a lecture followed by self-directed learning, while the other attended the same lecture followed by integrating the method of loci technique. In comparison to the self-directed learning group, the group who interactively incorporated the method of loci technique after their lecture showed significantly improved performance in their ability to retain information for their assessments. With many other studies supporting these findings, this ancient brain-boosting technique is one to try out. We hope you've learned something new today and that this video has encouraged new ways of thinking to boost your memory power. Now, we'd like to know, what tools do you use to support your memory and cognitive function? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to claim your free gift. And before you go, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching!